In the real world, things are not always so neat and tidy. A lot of times you're not going to find a leading line right where you need it, or you're not going to have any kind of foreground or background, or you can't be a cat or you can't be a bird, and you got to get a shot off. What do you do? And simply what I do in that situation is I find my Scott spot or my shape. Look around your composition and find the shape. Usually find the largest shape and put your subject in that shape, in the middle of that shape, and you will have a great shot. Okay? It's very easy. There's no spirals you got to think about. You just have to look for shapes. And let me show you how that's done. Let's go to this next picture. This picture is in Miami, and she's on the balcony, and there's a lot of different shapes I could use. One, there's the shape against the wall, and I could put her back there, but you know, my subject's going to be very small at that point, and so I want to make her a little bit larger and more prominent in the photo. So that's not going to work for me, and so what I can do is put her closer to me, and I can take a lower angle so I can put her head more in the middle of that sky so you can clearly see her. Let's go to Paris. So here's a little tip when you go to Paris. When you want to shoot at the Louvre, shoot on a Tuesday. Why do you shoot on a Tuesday? It's closed that day. So there's going to be a lot less people shooting in Paris. So this was a Tuesday. The world is going to open up and give you a shot. But a lot of times they're only going to give you a few seconds to do it. And this was this particular situation. I was trying to get a shot here where, of course, if you're at the Louvre, you want to get those pyramids. That's very important. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, there is nobody walking in front of me. We have got to take this shot now. So literally, I found my Scott spot, right? What is it? It is a wall. So I had a wall there that kind of creates a backdrop. So I got her up on that wall. I put her nose towards the light. I made her create an interesting shape, right, with the pose, and boom, I clicked it. Within 30 seconds, I got my shot, and wouldn't you know it, a minute later, there's tons of people walking by. And I find that happens over and over and over again. You're going to get the opportunity to take the perfect shot, but do you have the skill to execute it in time? And that's where I find a lot of photographers fall short. It's like, yes, here's your shot. Here's your opportunity. Oops, you missed it because we didn't have our act together or our skill wasn't high enough. So that's why you literally need to go out and practice finding these shapes. And so a lot of times I am looking for a clean wall that acts as my backdrop. I put my subject there, and then I'm showing depth in my photo. So that's why I added that little bit on the left-hand side so you can see those columns, and you can see those columns and the perspective and the leading line going down that column, because it demonstrates how large this place is, right? The depth creates a sense of size and story. That's completely opposite of shooting in the studio. So when you're shooting on location, you need to show the unique attributes of where you are to tell a better and more compelling story. Let's go to Australia now. And I love this little museum there because it had this cool, it's like a modern art museum, and they had all these little structures and artifacts all over the place, and they didn't mind you shooting there, which was great. And so I saw this little structure that looked like a wave. I had my subject. I'm taking a lower perspective and shooting up. And where did I place her? I placed her right in the middle where that sky is, creating a perfect backdrop for me. And there's no distracting background behind her, and I found a great shape for her. So you can see the different shapes and the possibilities I had here. I had over by the wave I could put her, but I chose to put her by that sky there. Because the sky was a lot lighter, I could see her. All right, I changed my position and I thought, well, that wave was great, but it didn't really tell the complete story because I want to show that this place is right next to a beautiful lake. And so I walked around, and often what I do when I'm in a new area, I take a complete 360 around the premises. I just don't start shooting. I say, hey, what's going to be the best shot here? I walk in a full circle. I take my camera out, taking various angles and perspectives, and then I look at it and I look for those shapes and I go, okay, where can I place my subject? And so here I'm walking around, oh, okay, here's the lake. I need to get that in. I'm going to put her head in that middle of that other shape of that wave. And so I placed her there. And so now I'm able to get her. She can be seen because I have that backdrop, that shape that's behind her. And then also I have the sky and I have the water behind her that can tell the story. Here's another angle of it where I'm using that interesting shape as an amazing backdrop of red, using that color, right? That solid color of red so she can pop out of that. But what I do, I also add the sky on the left-hand side, adding depth, adding story. I want to show the world, hey man, I'm outside. I'm not in a studio. Look at this amazing shot. And so when you learn to show depth in your photos, that gives you an advantage over the studio photos because you're actually showing that you're shooting on location. I love this photo. And this is in Spain at this museum. I think it's a science museum, but everybody shoots here. And they had this cool, like half a football structure that had some rib texture on it. And so I go, ooh, that's amazing. If I put my subject right in the middle of that, and I know she's wearing red, this is going to be amazing. Now, this photo actually, the entire structure behind her was gray cement and white. I added the color to tell a better story and to create some amazing color in the photo. I want to add a rich bouquet of color. The composition was good because I put her right in the middle of that shape, but I also added the color blocks to accentuate the composition. Here again, I'm doing my typical technique. I'm in Spain and she's wearing a beautiful orange dress and the wind is blowing and it's really cool. And so how can I set her apart? I am going to put her over right next to this white wall. So that would be a backdrop right behind, a clean backdrop behind her. But also I'm going to use some depth in the other part of my frame to show where she was at. And I'm getting all the, the lighting and everything set up in the pose. And all of a sudden this jogger starts coming. Usually I would let that jogger or that person walk by, but in this case I really liked the yellow and I really love the contrast. I go, that yellow's cool, and I like the contrast of the elegant and the athletic, and I'm going to go ahead and take the picture. It tells a story, right? That's when you shoot on location. You want to be able to tell a story. You want to transport the viewer and put them right there with you in Spain. Let's go now to this ranch in California. We're there and we're doing this bridal shoot there, and we've got these amazing dresses, amazing models, and where am I going to shoot them? What am I going to do? So I got this little pier leading out into the lake, and I go, oh, that's interesting. How can I get this awesome shot? So typically one thing that I do is I look for a corner, because corner kind of create leading lines and it has an interesting shape to it. So I get to the corner of the dock and I go, where am I going to place her? Okay, then I see an opening between the trees and the reeds coming out from the water. I see this awesome shape that I can put her head in. And so I take a lower angle to put her head almost in the middle of that shape there. And so she can really just pop. Now, when you have a dress like she's wearing with a lot of texture and beading, you don't want a lot of distractions to take away from that dress. And especially, you know, she's wearing something on her head. And so finding a clean background is a must, especially when somebody's wearing intricate beading and detail and texture. Here, I had the perfect sky for it. Like, boom, let's put her right in that spot. Now, here is a perfect example what I mean by you don't have to be next to the Eiffel Tower to take a picture of the Eiffel Tower. This is a place, an Airbnb that I rented. It was like this awesome 5-room place that had the awesome balcony overlooking the Eiffel Tower. I go, shoot, I got to take some pictures here. So what do? I have my beautiful model in the red dress and I find a clean backdrop that I can put her behind, and I take my 85mm lens out. I put it at 1.8 or something like that. And so I make sure that I got the Eiffel Tower in the background and I've got this beautiful composition. My subject is in that clean little space that I found. And so she's in the foreground. In the background, I have Eiffel Tower, and then you're over. And then also we're getting the bird's eye view, right? And we're looking down on the ground, right? And so that's also a leading line straight to the Eiffel Tower. So you got several compositional elements all working together to create this amazing photo. But you gotta practice it. You gotta get out there, and you can't just look at the slide and go, yeah, I see that. No, you actually gotta find it yourself and do it. And practice seeing this, and it'll get easier and easier, and before you know it, you're gonna really get the hang of it. Now I'm back to New York, and there's this awesome place in Central Park where there's like a fountain there, and they always film here because there's a lot of musicians that play under here. And so they've got these beautiful arches, and I go, oh, great. You know, I want to show the majestic feeling of this. So I'm going to pull back and take a wide angle shot of it so I can get those arches, and I'm going to place her right in the middle of one of those arches. And I'm not just going to have her stand there. I'm going to have her dance and twirl around to make it a little bit interesting. And so that's what she's doing. She's kind of playing with her dress and twirling around. And boom, I got her right dab in the middle of that archway. And she's wearing white. My behind her is dark because the sun can't get there. And so bam, she's popping off of the page and she's completely within that shape. A lot of times you've got to kind of stretch your imagination to see shapes. And here I'm using just a yellow texture as my shape. We were walking across the arboretum here, and I saw these beautiful yellow flowers, and I go, hey, that's going to be a great background. So I'm shooting at a shallow depth of field. I put them there. I put some of the flowers in the foreground. I use my flash to create some backlight to create romance. So if you ever, take any of my lighting classes, definitely you hear me using backlight for romance. And here I'm doing that. I'm using a simple flash to create backlight to separate them from the background, but I'm using yellow as my shape. So here I'm using a color as my shape. Now I'm in Australia and I saw this huge, beautiful tree. I mean, we don't see trees this big that often. I go, man, that was one big tree. And the sun was shining directly on that trunk on the bottom there. And I go, that's a beautiful place to put somebody. So I look for real bright spots and I said, there's a bright spot. Let me put my subject over there. That tree is acting kind of like a great backdrop. I posed her there, put the nose towards the light, boom, there's the shot. You can even use trees as finding your Scott spot. This is a little bit different. I'm in Portland. I've got this beautiful waterfall in the background, and I want to shoot this couple. And so I go, well, let's use this rock boulder behind them. It has some texture behind it, but it's It's not a lot of conflicting texture. The subjects are a lot bigger than the textures. That rock creates a great backdrop for them to be behind. And then also I show some depth. I show that water, that waterfall coming in behind them. I am taking a bird view and shooting down on them, which also creates an interesting composition. Another thing about this I want to talk about is when you're posing your subjects, not all the time do you have to have them still. You can also create some sort of action. So you can set up your composition and you can find that shape that you want the subjects in, and then you can have them walk through that shape, dance in that shape, or run through that shape, or whatever. But you know where your shape is and create some action through that shape and click that picture right when they're in the middle, and you're going to get a great shot. Here I'm using the contrast of light and a silhouette. And a lot of times when you're at a venue, you can use this typical lighting scenario, especially if you have a lot of sun outdoors. You can use those curtains and close them down so that kind of creates a shape for your subject to be in. So pick a bright area, close down those curtains, or maybe the curtains are there for you. Put the subject right in the middle of that bright spot, and guess what? Boom, it's going to create a silhouette. What did I say earlier about silhouettes? You have to create an interesting shape when you shoot a silhouette. That's why you've got to shoot a profile of somebody. And so you can't shoot them straight on because you're not going to have a nice profile. So that's why I had them face each other, so I got a nice profile of both of them. Another thing, do you actually see them kissing? No. Why? Because if they're kissing, you're not going to see distinct shapes of their faces. It's going to look a little bit confusing, right? So that's why I have them close, but not close enough that they would touch each other and kind of distort that shape. I'm back here at Central Park in New York City, and I'm using that beautiful green behind them for my backdrop. And she's wearing an awesome red dress, and red and green are complementary colors, so I know it's going to go together. When I'm on location, I'm looking for the plants and the vegetation and the trees, and I'm looking for the areas where that sun is hitting those plants and making those leaves glow or that color pop. And in this case, you can see the highlight and shadow behind her of those awesome leaves there, and that creates an amazing backdrop there. So she had a little, square space, and I put her right in there with that amazing colored background because of the light, the highlight and shadow, complementary colors. It made for an awesome shot. I'm also in the same location, but I'm simply finding a backdrop that I could put my subject in, and then to the left of the frame, I have depth. So I just wanted to find, where can I find a nice little clean backdrop? I put my subject with some depth behind it. This is a quick photo that I took. The sun was shining right in this direction, so I didn't really need to use any lighting. Put my subject there, and then I used a shallow depth of field lens. I'm probably using a 55 or an 85, probably an 85 millimeter lens, so I can get that nice blurry background by putting it at 1.8. And so, man, my subject's really gonna pop because she's got a nice clean background behind her, but I'm also showing some depth behind her. This is an interesting shape. You can use water on the ground to create your shape. Water, especially if the water is on something dark, it will create an amazing reflection. So you have to put light on your subject so the water can reflect the image. I had to position my subjects there because that's where the sun was shining. So the sun is shining on them, and it's reflecting that image on the puddle on the ground. But instead of shooting them, I just shot the reflection, and then I had a little bit of feet in my frame to show where they really were. And so this mirroring effect really works well with compositions, but here I'm using the water and a puddle on the ground to create my shape. I want you to go out and I want you to find shapes where you can put your subject. And I need you to look in your environment and to change your perspectives, go up, go down, shoot it left, shoot it right, and try to find a shape where you can take your subject and put them in there so they will clearly stand out. Just doing this exercise is going to really help with your compositions, especially when there are no leading lines. There is no foreground, background, or it's hard to, get down low and find something or get up higher and find something. You can just, in any environment that you're at, you can find a shape. There's no problem doing that. So go out and practice that. So right now I am gonna go out on location and I'm gonna show you in the real world how I can go and find these amazing shapes where I can put my subject and create amazing compositions. Let's create some great compositional shots. And I am gonna show you how to find your spot. In this particular situation, I'm using a shape. And what I did was I found a nice archway that I can place my subject inside, creating a nice shape. I also had to do that. I had to kind of think outside the box and place her higher up. So I just put her on the edge of the fountain, which looks amazing. The fountain is also beautiful, so I can kind of put that in my picture too to add character of where I'm at. All right, so let's do that. Now, I'm fighting very strong sun, so I don't want to fight it and add light here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna have her nose towards the light so her face is illuminated. So, okay, now, look at how beautiful her face is here, okay? And if I position myself, I gotta be a little bit like a cat and get down lower so I could put her right in that spot right there. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Beautiful. Can you do that again? And I'm gonna have you throw that dress up. Yeah, let it go. Oh, wait. I'm gonna change right now I'm gonna change my shutter so I can do it a little bit faster. It'll take multiple shots at a time here. Okay, great. Hold on 1 second. Turn that off. Okay, anytime. Ready? Go ahead. Perfect. Can you do that again and let go of it? Yeah, when you're at the top. Okay, ready? Go. Beautiful. And so, because her face is towards the light, and it's a little bit at a side angle, I get some great dimension on her face too. So I get the shadow side and then the highlight, which always looks great. But I put her right inside that shape and it looks beautiful, especially what she's wearing. It looks so majestic. Okay, so let's try another one. And this time I'm gonna add some light so I'm gonna kind of overcome the strong light and just add some light on her. Okay, so I'm gonna have you look at me this time. And I'm gonna put my light right here. And when you're in bright light like this, you're gonna have to really fight the light and put your light probably on at full power, most likely. I just have a standard flash right now. There's nothing out of the ordinary, which anybody can get. Okay, so that looks good. So look off that. I like how you're doing that. Perfect. 1, 2, 3, good. And so what happened was she had a strong shadow on this side, but I used my flash to kind of fill it in. All right, so do that one more time. 1, 2, 3, beautiful. Let me just turn this down so it doesn't go so fast. And let me do one more time this way. Ready? 1, there's people in the background. 2, 3. Gorgeous. Now, turn your head this way. And I want you to turn your nose towards this light and look at me with your eyes, beautiful eyes. Perfect. Chin down just a bit. Yep, good. 1, 2, 3. Gorgeous. How about if you turn your body a little bit to the side? So turn your body away from the light, this way. Yeah, there you go. And look back at me. I don't want your dress in the water. That good? Yeah, there it is, right there. 1, 2, 3. Awesome. Now I like taking not only portrait, but I will also take some with landscape configuration too. So let me see what I got here, and I can put you right in that spot. 1, 2. Awesome. Let me see how it came out. Good. Let's do this. Let's do that same thing, but I want you to hold your dress up like that. Good. And you're going to turn your nose towards this way a little bit, right there, but look back at me. Yeah, there it is. Man, you're a master at posing. 1, 2, 3. Got it. Let me take a look at it. When you've got a beautiful model here or a subject in a beautiful dress, you don't want to move them around a lot. So if you can get more than one shot in relatively the same position, that's how you maximize your time. So let's see if I can get some other great compositions when she's still in the same place. Now, one thing you can do, shooting like a cat, you always have the sky available to you. And so if you got nothing else, you can create a Scott spot with the sky. And I've got these beautiful buildings here, and I've got a beautiful blue sky. I can try to do that if I get closer to her and I shoot up like a cat. So you're gonna, ooh, that looks great. You're gonna turn this way more, because I'm gonna try to create a silhouette. Can you kind of lift your dress in the back and create a shape? So I got a Scott spot, but I'm gonna do a silhouette here because there's some strong light. Okay, so look off that way. Now I'm trying to create a shape. Good. The more interesting the shape, the better. Now this is awesome because I got some strong light. I can do this two ways. I can create a silhouette, and then I also can fill her in with light. Great. Okay, so let's do another shot with the light on. And so I got my flash again, and I'm gonna have you do that same thing. Can you actually try lifting up that end of the dress? Yeah, and you're gonna look that way, or look towards this light, or this way. Yep. Let me, oh man, you look gorgeous right there. And let me see if we got this. Let me turn the flash on. 1, 2, 3. Good. Killing it, stay there. I'm gonna see if I can get it down low here. 1, 2. Let me take a look at that. That looks gorgeous too. Let me just line myself up a little better. 1, 2. I gotta get back a bit because that building is so high. 1, 2. Let's check it out. That looks amazing. So I'm taking different positions, creating different Scott spots. One was the sky. And then what I wanted to do is pull back and get some of that beautiful scene. So what I did was I placed her, because behind her was dark, shooting into the darkness, I was able to make her stand out by adding some light in there. So it didn't really matter what was behind her at that point because it was all dark and I was adding my own light. So that's in essence using the light as your Scott spot, but instead of adding light, it's subtracting light. And so I'm shooting into darkness, making it darker by putting a strong flash on my subject, so my background will be underexposed, creating darkness as my Scott spot. All right, beautiful. Let me show you an example on how to photograph a photo with some great composition. Now, here we are, and a lot of times we get so excited about shooting our family or shooting a portrait of, you know, our subject, and they look so great, and we're taking photos, and a lot of times we have distracting elements in the background. But part of this location is that fountain. It's an iconic piece of the environment that I want to include, but I don't want it sticking straight out of her head. And so a lot of times we just forget about what's behind the subject. So you got to look at your iconic elements in the background and make sure that it's to the side of your subject, and you're going to have a much more powerful photo. Because especially if you're shooting with an iPhone that keeps everything in focus, you're gonna make sure that these distracting elements are out of the way. So on the second shot here, I'm putting the fountain over here, and then also I'm putting my lovely subject, Emma, over off to the side, and you can see it's gonna be a much more compelling photo versus having that distracting element right above her head, which does not look that great. So remember, when you're shooting, is to make sure that your background is as clean as possible. And if you do have an iconic element that's in your photo, make sure it's put to the side of your subject so you can see both your subject and the iconic element, and it will go together smoothly to create a photo that really is strong compositionally. Okay, I'm finding a shape as my Scott spot, and so behind her you can see this beautiful white background that separates her. And so I'm going to use that and place her right in that little space there and get this beautiful light coming down, okay? And so I will just pose her, put her in that space, and I'm going to shoot up. And I really love getting that light coming down from above. So I want to make sure that I get that. Great. And you can look at me a little bit right there. Good. And I'm just using, you want to make sure that behind your subject is very, very clean. And when it has a very clean background behind your subject's going to pop off that page. That's very important for location shooting, is to have that clean background. Let's try that. So let's kind of let that fall, but you're going to look off that way and grab the end of it. And then I just want you to kind of fling it up and let it fall. I'm going to put my shutter speed up a little bit higher so I can catch it. Wait, hold on 1 second. Okay. And look, put your arm on that rail there and throw that up again. And I need you to pop your hip out a little bit more exaggerated one way or the other. Perfect. Come in a little bit closer to that because your arm's a little bit too far out. Perfect. Okay, now let's try it. Go ahead. Okay, good. One more time. And turn your head sideways. Right there, and anytime. Beautiful. Okay? And so that's using your composition, finding just a little clean space, a little Scott spot where you can put your subject so that subject can just pop off that page because it's very clean behind her and no distractions. So that's one way of creating a great composition, by using shape as your Scott spot.